Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Samach Gimel and קידושין we learned for Achenoko based Shulchan and Sunnah Sarv Shivya. We're at the Mishnah and daf Samach Gimel Aleph. Haomer liisha reid mekadesh li amanasha daber alecha l'shilton. Will you marry me on the condition that I speak to the government on your behalf, or besim chavkol, or I'll work for you as a laborer? So Dibur aleh shilton, if he fulfilled the condition and he spoke to the government on her behalf, or Asim Kapolo, or he did the work that he promised. What's the chiddush over here? He said, marry me on the condition that I'm going to do this or do that. If he does that, she's married, she's betrothed. If not, she's not. What's the chiddush? Yes, so Rav Shapiro is going to explain in a minute. Because he said, marry me on the condition. Yes, but what is he marrying her with? Is he giving her a ring? Or is the condition the ring? Is that what he's giving her with? He has to give her something. In other words, it's one thing to say, I'm marrying you with this ring on the condition. Is the condition the ring? Or he's giving her a ring? Rav says, no, besides that, he's giving her a ring. He gave her something. But he's not marrying her with the benefit. Let's say that's worth something, right? That he's going to speak to the king, or he's going to work for her. Okay, that's like worth money. Is that effectively the ring? Is that what he's giving her with this? Is he saying with the money that you're going to save by me doing the work for you, or by me you'd pay an advisor to spend $1,000 to speak to the king on your behalf? So marry me with that $1,000. Is that what he's doing? No, he's giving her a ring, and he's saying, I'm giving you a ring or a shavaput or something. Marry me with this ring on the condition that I speak to you for that. That's how Rav Shapiro is interpreting Mishnah. We should also shavaput of more of a schar lo, but not for the reward of the payment of his services services rendered. By the time we learn the schar share kafticha alachamor. Let's say you owe me some money. I gave you a donkey ride. Shoshivascha bekar, and I gave you a ride in this carriage of a sphina or on the ring. I gave you a ride. You owe me money. I gave you a ride last week. You owe me $10. Can you marry me with that? No. And why? Because she owes him that money. What's that? It's a loan. She owes him $10 from a ride that she took last week. That's a loan. You can't marry somebody with a loan. She owes you $10. Remember, we learned back and up. You can't marry because you're not giving her anything now. They own you that money, but you're not giving that to them now. And but if he says, marry me with the money that you're going to say, with the fare that I'm going to give you a ride on my donkey or a carriage of a spina, there, because marry me with this, with the payment. I'm going to give you a ride right now. That's worth $10. Marry me with that. That is mukudeshes. Why? Because that's going to happen now. She doesn't owe him that already. He's giving her that to her now. So what do you see? You could marry her with the schar, with the reward, the payment for services rendered. Maybe that's also speaking about, maybe this case with the ride is also speaking where he gave her a ring, so to speak, gave her shavapruta. But the schar comes, he says, marry me with this schar, with this payment. Let's say she says to him, do me a favor. Sit with me, keep me company. I'm scared right now. There's a war. Just keep me company. And the reward that I would pay somebody else, I would pay somebody to stay with me, give them $25, please sit here with me. I'll marry you with that, right? I'll be married to you. Or schok lefanai, or joke in front of me, record lefanai, dance in front of me, do me some service. I say the kedimus says that, make me like a little building, make me some masonry. Shaman, you say, if the job that she's asking for is worth the shavaput mukadeshes, you can marry her with that payment. So you see, you could marry somebody with that. So why did Rish Lakish say that the Mishnah is speaking about marry me with this condition, but he's giving her a ring in addition? Marry me with this ring on the condition that I do so and so. Maybe he's marrying her with the value of the services that he's about to render. Maybe this case also is speaking about where she says, do this favor for me, build me something, sit with me, joke in front of me, dance in front of me, and I'll be married to you. Is that also speaking about where he gave her a shavaput, he gave her effectively a ring? But Shaman also comes and says you assess it to see if it's worth a shavapruta. If it's because that's what you need to marry somebody. The chitra shak is, so it's a kash of Rish Lakish. Why do you explain the Mishnah? Wait, Rish Lakish. No, Haitana brought this other brisa, this outside brisa, so to speak. This brisa holds anus chiyus of himself. There's a famous question, not like we do today. It's common today when you rent a house, when you rent an item, you pay in advance. You rent it by the month, you pay for the month in advance. In the biblical times, in the time of the Gemara, the Shiur was paid at the end. So the question is, do you only owe the money at the end, or do you owe the money all along? In other words, every second that you're there, you owe him the money. So this Tana holds that you only owe the money at the end. Therefore, you could say, marry me with this job that you're going to do, with this service that you're going to render, and there's no loan involved because she only owes him the money when at the end of the service that's rendered. At that point, he's giving it to her. He's saying, give me that. I'm giving you this. You're gonna owe me some money at the end of the month. You don't owe me any right now. It's not a loan right now. At the end of the service, you're going to have to pay me. I'm relaxing that payment. I'm relieving that payment and saying that payment should stay with you in return for the wedding. That's what the Brisa holds. But our Tana of Tani Don Savar, no, so if there's a service rendered, she owes him that money from the very beginning. As every second, every time that he's doing part of the work, if you're supposed to speak to the government for $1,000, that's what it's worth. So as he's doing it, she owes him the money. It's racked up. That's a loan. You can't marry somebody with a loan. Why? And that's why he says that in our Mishnah, the point is, it's like the tabasu al menash. It's not marry me with the service that I'm rendering for you that you don't have to pay me. It's I'm marrying you with this ring on the condition that I do the service. That's part in the Mishnah. Why was he pushed to do that? Why was he pushed? Why did Rish Lakish say the Mishnah is speaking about behold yesh l'schiyas mishrav sof? That when you do service for somebody, they owe you the money as it's going. It's not just you owe the money at the end when the job is done. You owe the money all along. Therefore, when you owe them the money, she owes him the money. That's a loan. You can't marry somebody for a loan. Says Gemara, my duchke to Rish Lakish. Why did he say the Mishnah speaking that way? And he gave her a ring. Just say, well, maybe it just means, maybe the Mishnah means, marry me for this in return for the service that I'm rendering you. That's worth money right now. The Mishnah was difficult to Rish Lakish. He says, what's going on? Why did the Mishnah say, look at the words in the Mishnah again, on the conditions of her. Say, marry me with the payment or the payment due or the reward, whatever you want to call it, that I'm going to speak on the kingdom of your behalf. And that's worth $1,000. So marry me for that $1,000. I'm effectively giving you $1,000 by giving you that service that I'm going to render. Didn't say that. He didn't say he said almanas. Called almanas. When it says almanas, it means yes, I'm giving you a ring. And I'm marrying you with this ring on the condition that I do. So if you fulfill the condition, then you're married. If not, not. And there's really, otherwise, there's no chiddush in the mission. Of course, any condition that you make, if you fulfill the condition, it's done. If you don't fulfill the condition, it's not done. We had a discussion where is Omer Almanas, Komer Me'achshav Dami, that we had Rebbe said yes, others say no. So there's a question of Almanas is Komer Me'achshav. But certainly Almanas means on the condition. But when you say marry me with what? With this ring or this money on the condition that I do this service. Says the Mishnah, 4 lines from the bottom page, man says, I'm marrying you on the condition that my father will agree to the wedding. On the condition my father agrees to the wedding. So Ratzah, the father agrees, okay. Mesav, let's say the father dies, but he didn't agree necessarily, right? Let's see. Mesav, and let's say the son dies now. So if the son dies, there's no marriage, yes, but was it a marriage or not? So we try to implore, we teach the father to say he doesn't want the wedding, so she shouldn't have to fall yibum. The wife shouldn't have to fall yibum, the son died. But what's the case? What exactly was his lashon? My almanah sheyir tza'aba. Says the Gemara, the father say, yes, I agree to the wedding. Okay, maybe that's what it is. But then you say, Mesa, but the father dies raising Kadeshes, right? But he didn't say, hey, right? He didn't say, hey. He didn't say yes. A means yes, right? Pardon?
Even if he says yes,
yeah. No. Of course, he's giving her money. Again, almanas is just like we learned in the previous Mishnah. Marry me with this thing on the condition. On the condition means there's a wedding, there's a ring, let's say $1,000, a penny, whatever it is, on the condition that he agrees. So what do you mean on the condition? Does he have to say yes, I agree? If that means, so how does it work when he died? And you say he's married. He didn't say yes there. Ella, what does it mean? Okay. If my father is quiet when he hears about the wedding that we're getting married and he's quiet, then it's okay, that's what it means. Then he agrees. Okay, so therefore, if he died, so he was quiet till then, fine, no problem. What does the Sefer say? Mesa ben, if the son dies, Manasab, we teach the father to say She'ena Rotzi, he doesn't want to. Amayva Shasik. What's that going to help now? If you say that the condition is that you're married on the condition that my father, when he hears about the wedding, is quiet, doesn't say anything. Well, as soon as he was quiet, then he agrees to the wedding. So what does it help now if the son dies? That we told the father to say, I don't want the wedding. No, you already agreed. What's that going to help? Ella, so from the Sefer we see that he must be speaking about a different case where he said in the Sefer he says on the condition that my father never objects. Never objects. That means as long as he's alive, he can object. He didn't give a time limit to it. When he said my father means on the condition that my father's quiet when he hears about it. So if he heard about it and he was quiet, he can't object later on if the son dies. So Elamai must be speaking about where he said, on the condition my father doesn't object. So that's why the Sefer works, meaning on the condition my father never objects. So if the son dies, the father still can object. Say, I never wanted my son to marry this girl, right? Never wanted to marry this girl. So, but then it's a different case. Did he say, was the condition on the condition that my father is going to be silent when he hears about it? And then it won't. Then if he was silent when he heard about it, he can't object after the son dies. So it must be talking about a different case. On the condition my father doesn't object. Let's just finish more and see if we still have a problem. So Reisha b'chatam Sefer b'chatam. So it comes out the Reisha is speaking about where he said on the condition that my father is quiet when he hears about it, right? And that's why that works. So if he didn't say anything, it works. And if he Reish b'chatam and Mitziasa v'Seifa, Reish b'chatam Mitziasa v'Seifa b'chatam, and the Seifa is speaking about where he said, if my father never objects. Well, if he died, he didn't object, and if the son died, he could also object at that point. Then the mission makes sense. But then you're talking about two different cases. Chatam or Shneitam means two different cases. The first case is speaking about where he says, my father hears about it, and the condition, you marry me with this ring on the condition that my father doesn't say anything when he hears about it. Okay. So if the father doesn't say anything, they're married, right? That's what he means. Ratza Abba, he didn't say anything, fine. Then he says, different cases, marry me on the condition my father doesn't object whenever he hears, doesn't object, never objects. So if the father died, he didn't object, it's marriage. And if the son died, the father could still object. But then the problem is that the Reish and the Sefer talking about two different cases. Rav Yanai, that's right. The Reish and the Sefer talking about cases. Rish Lakish, Shmamina mid Rav Yanai. You see from what Rav Yanai says that the Reish and Sefer talking about cases. We'd rather say that the mission is speaking about two different cases, all with the same author. Rather to say that, you know what? The Mishnah said, the Mishnah could talk on a case where the son said, marry me on the condition that my father agrees. The Tanakama says, what does it mean by my father agreeing that he doesn't say anything when he hears about it? Then you have a different Tana which says, no, my father agrees means that he never objects his entire life. But Rav Yanai said, no, we'd rather say you're talking about two different cases. So Rish Lakish says, you see from Rav Yanai that he says they're talking about two different cases. He'd rather say it's one Tana, but two different cases, rather than say it's two different Tanoim, but we're talking about the same case, two different ways to understand his words when he says, on the condition my father agrees. What does it mean my father agrees? Does he have to say yes? Or does he have to just be silent when he hears about it? Or does he have to object? That's maybe two different terms. Rabbi says, no, I'll tell you, Rabbi says, no, it's all the same case. What does it mean on the condition my father agrees? I can explain the whole mission, both cases this way. Marry me on the condition that my father doesn't object with this wedding up to 30 days. My father has 30 days to object. Okay, marry me under those conditions. So what does that mean? If you say what? And you gave it a specific time, therefore, if the 30 days pass and the father doesn't object, then it's a wedding, right? That's then no problem. Mikdeshes. If he didn't object, if he didn't want the wedding, that he objected with 30 days, and not Mukadeshes. Let's say the father died in the 30 days. Well, he didn't object. If he died, he can't object anymore. She's married, right? Who's going to object now? If the son dies within 30 days, the father could still object. So you could say that it's speaking about one case and one Tana. Rav Yanai chose to say it's two different cases. The first case is marry me on the condition that my father doesn't that my father is quiet when he hears about it. Then the seifa, the middle part in the seifa is marry me on the condition that my father never objects. Well, if he died, or if the son died, if the father died, he can't object anymore. If the son died, he could object. He still could object. So talking about two different cases. Rish Lakish says he'd rather say two different cases than say it's two different understandings, two different terms with different understandings of the word on the condition my father agrees. Rav Yosef Rami says, no, I'll give you one case that it could work both ways. Marry me on the condition that my father doesn't object within 30 days. If he doesn't object 30 days past, they're married. If he objects within 30 days, they're not married. Okay, that's what the Mishnah said. Let's say the father dies within 30 days. Well, he didn't object, and he's never going to object again. Once he's dead, he can't object. So they're married. If the son dies within 30 days, the father could still object, and therefore she won't fall to evil. Now,
Before we get to Rav Yosef's answer, when you say that the father can object, that means that after 10 years he can still object.
Correct. The objection could be any time. Correct. That's exactly right. That's how Rashi understood it. And when he said Almanashi Yishto, that means on the condition that he's quiet as soon as he hears about it. Once he heard about it, he's quiet. They're married. If you learn that means on the condition that he's quiet when he hears about it. Almanas that he never objects means never objects. It means he can object in 100 years. Correct. That's right. That's a difficult example, but that's how Rashi learns shot in the Gemara before Rav Yosef's answer. Kidash Asbiti says the Mishnah. Man says I married off my daughter. What happened was I was giving out cigars when the baby girl was born. Giving out cigars. We were drinking, and I accepted קידושין, made a shidduch from some guy who said I'm going to marry your daughter. I forgot who it was. I forgot who I married to. A guy comes along and says, "Oh yeah, I think I was the one who married." Do you believe him? Maybe he just wants to marry. Neman, he's believed. Now we're going to qualify this. The guy comes along and says, "I was the one. It's me." Okay. We have a fight. This is like we're getting ready for Shnai Mochsen. Each guy says, "I was the one who married her." Right? Maybe the guy now, maybe the father-in-law is a rich man now. I was the one who married your daughter. I gave her a ring, whatever it was. Shneim knows them get. They both have to give a get. And Ratsu, they want Echanos and get Echakonos. One can give her a get, and one can marry her. Okay, maybe neither one of them are telling the truth. We'll see. Okay, I'm a Rav. So Rav, we have Machlokes of Rav and Ravasi. Rav says Nemanit and get a man comes along and says, "I was the one who married your daughter." There's no Adam, of course. Now we don't know who it was. Guy comes along and says, "I was the one." Guy says, "I know I married off my daughter. I don't know to whom." So she can't marry anybody now, right? Because the father says I married her off. So what do you do? Guy comes along and says, "I married her." Rav says he's believed to give her a get. What do you mean to give her a get? But he can't marry her. Maybe she's married to somebody else. Nemeli didn't get. Why is he believed to give her a get? If he's not the husband, he can't give her a get. Nobody can. It's just like a guy off the street just can't say give her a get. Have the judge give her a get. He's believed to give her a get. Why would he sin? Why would he be matter this Ashes Ish? Right? She's a betrothed woman. Why would he be matter her? To get married, and he doesn't gain anything out of it, right? If he he's not getting anything. So he give her a get. Why would he give her a get? What does he gain out of giving her a get? He was just being matter. She's not going to sin if he has no benefit from it. I can understand that if a guy says all of a sudden he likes her and he says, "Yeah, I like to marry this girl. Yeah, I was the one who married." That we can understand. But maybe he's he's not believing. Maybe he just fell in love with her. He says this girl, she's available. I'll say I was the one who married her, right? We not believe for that. Ravasi says no. He's even believed to marry her. We'll see why. That's why, because he told the father, "I'm the one who agreed." Now here he needs a little guts, right? Because if he's lying, maybe the father will call him out. He says, "I know it wasn't you. I know it wasn't you. I don't know. I forgot it was, but it wasn't you." So he's afraid of that. So if he says, "I was the one," Ravasi says he can believe. Ravasi's motive, let's say she was the one. She says, "I accepted קידושין from somebody. We had a party. We were drunk. I accepted קידושין from somebody, and I forgot who. Not totally drunk. Otherwise, she's like a shota, right? And she wasn't a קידושין, but she just says, "I forgot." If she says, the girl says, and the guy comes along and says, I was the one who married, and in Eman Lichtas, he's not believed. Why? Well, we'll see, because he or she'll cover up for him too, right? She'll cover up for him too. She's okay. I'm married to this guy, but once she's married to him, somebody else comes along and says, no, I was the one. She's going to cover up. She doesn't want to look like a Zona. Great time. Let's see our Mishnah. Does our Mishnah go with either one? Ratzu, then Mishnah's Ratzu. If two guys came along and said, each guy said, no, I was the one who married her. So if they want, they both give a get, or one guy can give a get, the other guy can marry her. Rav says you're not believed to marry her. You believe to give her a get, but you're not believed to say you were the one. Since there's somebody else there, there's is afraid to lie. If two people come along and say, I'm the one, right? So you believe them basically, but they both can't be the one. So one gives a get, one's married. But he's more believed because not only is he countering the father-in-law, if he's lying, he's also counting the other guy, so he's more afraid there. Tani Kwes Ravasi, a Bryce like Rav Asi, like Rav Asi is when we talk about you see it in Ram Seichel like Rav Asi, that he's believing in Kidashiyas Piti. A man says this case, father-in-law says, I married off my daughter, one guy says, I married her, after him, like he can even marry her, right? Let's say once he married her, another guy comes along and claims, no, he was the one who married her. You can't. He's not empowered to forbid the girl on him because he's just making up a story now. We believe the first guy. But if a woman herself says, I got married, somebody, the guy comes along and says, I married her. It's too early to put on tefillin. It's a dummy die. Let's feel it. Dumb. Okay. All right. There, she's not believed because she's also in it. In other words, she's obviously like an aguna now, and this guy marries her, and then she'll cover up them too because she wants to be married to somebody, so she'll also cover up for him. That's the reason why Rav Asi's moda that if she was the one who said it, that we don't believe him. All right. And then Leslie was a so she'll deny anybody else who comes along after. She says, no, I'm married to this guy. Okay. So we have a machlokas here between Rav Asi and Rav. Again, a man says, I married off my daughter, I forgot. And when a guy comes along and says, it was me, you can give her a get because the get is valid because why would he give her a get if he's not real? What does he gain out of it? He give her a get, if he's the one to give a get, he can't marry her anyway. So why would he sin? So he's believed to give her a get, and then she'd be free to marry anybody else. But he's not believed to marry her because he was afraid. Pardon? Huh?
But she may be married.
She's definitely betrothed to somebody, right? The father said that.
So she can marry somebody.
No, she cannot marry somebody else. She can't marry somebody else. Correct. She can't marry somebody else unless the father recognizes who it is. Later on, he wakes up. But as it is right now, she's not believed to marry somebody else. But if this guy comes along and gives her a get, then she could marry somebody else. Pardon?
If he's not.
No. We believe that he is the one. We believe him. In other words, there's a chance that he is the husband, right? If he's willing to give her a get right now and say, I forgo my privileges, marry somebody else, that's okay. Because we always say, why would you do that if you weren't really the husband? Why would you sin? Let's say you're not the husband. You're going to give her a get and be matur l'shuk. What do you gain out of it? Nothing. So since he has nothing to gain by lying, we believe that the get is good and she can marry somebody else now. But if he says, I want to marry her either now or after the get, we don't, because we figure his Yetzer Hara is pushing him. Okay. But so Rav Asi says that's what Rav says. But Rav Asi says no, he can even marry her. He can even marry her because the rabbi, the Chachamim believe this guy when he comes along and says he's believed. Because what's the reason to believe him? Because he wouldn't have the chutzpah to lie to this father. Maybe the father's going to call him out. What do you mean? I remember the guy was 5'2" and you're 6'3". It can't be you. Something like that. So he's afraid of that. So therefore, there is something pushing him to tell the truth. So Rav says you believe him. How far do you believe me? Boilu, Mao Lisko al Yado. Right? Would you get skila based on that? The father says I married her off, going up to Imam Kedash's Biti, and the קידושין ain't born. We don't know that there's a קידושין. In other words, the father says I betrothed my daughter. I don't know to whom. She's like an aguna now. Okay. She says, I'm not going to live this way. She goes and sleeps with somebody. Would you kill her now? That's his own. She's a skila. She says betrothed. She wasn't married. She was betrothed. It's skila. Rav Amar Ein Sok. Rav says you're not getting skila. Rav Asi Amar Sokla. Rav Amar Ein Sok. Rav says you don't give her skila. When did you believe the father that he betrothed his daughter? The Yisura, that she can't marry anybody else until the real husband shows up, brings some proof. Let's say. Like, you're not going to believe him that far. Not like there's Adam that she was married. You're not going to believe that. They believe him for everything. Interesting. If you look at the Rambam Seichen over here, when it comes to believing him, believing the son-in-law, that's right, this man that I was on married her, we go like Ravasi. You believe he can marry her, but you wouldn't believe her that if he doesn't marry her, you don't believe her that you don't believe him that much. You don't believe the father that much that you would give her skila if she committed adultery right now. Ravasi was talking with Kula Milse and the Rahman Allah. Ravasi says, Umodina, I agree, but Omeris Niskadashi, that if she's the one who says, I was betrothed to somebody and I don't know to whom, and now she sleeps with somebody else, I don't know who it was, that you're not going to give her skila. Ravasi, Hani Shmaita Didi, this that I've said, Mirpasanigri can break roofs. In other words, it doesn't make sense. Somebody may object to me. Why? Hashda, listen to this. I said that if this fiance, let's say, comes and says, I was the one who married her, Amrit, that he could marry her, right? You let him marry her, Amrit Soklin. There I say what? That you give skila. In other words, when the father-in-law said, I married her off to somebody, I don't know who, and this guy comes along and says, it was me. You let him marry her, even though what? Even though maybe do we know for sure he's the husband? No, we let him marry her. There you say Amrit Sokla. There I say you would give skila to her if she commits adultery based on the father's testimony that I married off my daughter. If what? If she says I married myself off to somebody and I don't know to whom, we don't believe him if he says I'm the one. Even Ravasi said that if she says, Ravasi said before, Ravasi said, if the father says I married off to somebody and he comes along and says, I'm the husband, you let him marry. But if she said I married myself off to somebody, he's not believed because maybe she'll cover up for him. So Madach in a case where if he's coming to marry her, we let him marry her. We say, yeah, if she sleeps with somebody else, Soklan, that's what Ravasi says. If she's the one who said, I married myself off to somebody, but I don't know whom, you don't allow him to marry because maybe they just fell in love. Certainly should get skila there too because he can't even marry her. Manach in a case where the fiance could marry her, we say you get skila in a place where we don't even allow the fiance to marry her because we don't think he's telling to. Certainly you should get skila there because we assume you can't marry your wife because she's married to somebody else. Certainly you should get skila there below you, but that's not the case. That's not the svara. It's very simple. The read my svara is this: the Hashem believed, the Torah believed the father that he married. The Torah doesn't believe her. She's not believed to answer herself. The Torah didn't. We didn't believe. The father is believed. We don't believe the girl, and that's why if the girl says I betrothed myself to somebody, even though Ravasi's motive to Rav that you can't, the fiance says it was me. You don't believe me. You can't marry her. You don't believe you can marry her. Still, if she commits adultery now with somebody else, she wouldn't get skila. Neither one gets skila. Whether it's the father, so when you see the Ram say ain't soken, it could be we go like a fista. Neither one gets skila because just because the father said he married her off and there's no other witnesses, or the daughter says I married myself off and we don't know who it is, and now she sleeps around, you're not going to give her skila based on that. Why? Rav Chisda goes according to this. Rav Chisda says, listen, let's say we have a kid here who committed adultery with a married woman. Married woman seduced him, let's say, and he was 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. So she would get, if there's Adam and Asra, she would get Misa for that. He's not bar mitzvah. So Rav Chisda says, let's say a guy says, my son is 9 years old. He's 9 years old a day. Or BT Zebasim, same thing would be in reverse. If let's say Meir married off his 2-year-old daughter, right? Married betrothed his 2-year-old daughter, and now somebody else committed adultery with her, with Adam and Asra. kill the adulterer, the man. Obviously, she's not bat mitzvah. She doesn't know what's going on. So Rav Chisda says, you believe to say ben teshanim b'yom echad that yom echad neman lekorban of lo lamakas lo lomshid. You're not so you're going to kill the adulterer or the adulteress based on the testimony of the father? No. Believe, if it was b'shogeg, you bring a carbon, but not for corporal punishment, meaning Bezin cannot give malchus or misa based on that. In other words, we don't know. There's no outside verification or confirmation by Adam of the age of this young boy. Same thing. My daughter or my son is bar or bat mitzvah respectively. Believe that if he made a netter, keep netter. If he gave something to the base of Migdash, to the Kohanim, yes, or to Berekabayis, or Hektish, Berekabayis, that's valid. If he says, if the son said, I am marech the value of myself to the base of Migdash, whatever the erichin is, 50 shekels according to the age and according to the gender. So for those things you believe, in other words, you're not going to give someone if there's a question as to whether the person is chayiv misa or chayiv malchus, and we're not sure of his age, if they're bar or bat mitzvah, or if they would even, if the girl was 3 years old and married, so that the adulterer would be chayiv, or if the adulteress, if it was a boy who was 9 or 10 years old, his bia is a bia. Let's say a woman committed adultery with a 6-year-old boy. That's not adultery, Allah, because it's not considered bia until he's 9 years old. A girl is 9 years old, it's bia, she's 3 years old. So in those cases, if you only know based on the father's testimony, you wouldn't get malchus or onshin based on that. And that's what we're saying over here too. So we come out that in this case, where a man says, I married off my daughter, I don't know who I married her off to, and a guy comes along and says it was me, we pass like Ravasi that he can marry her. He can marry her. That would be valid. According to Rav, he can't marry her at all. He can give her again. If he's believed if he wants to give her again, she can marry somebody else. According to Rav, he could even marry her. Even Rasi's moda, that if she was the one who said I married myself, and I don't remember who, not believe because we're afraid just their desire and their passions got a hold of them now. That's not good testimony. But either way, you wouldn't give her skila if she slept around, because based on that testimony alone, she wouldn't, not enough to give her skila. Well, okay, we'll stop here. Chodesh Tov to everybody, and Chanukah Beis Yisrael and Tzimah Shivya. Hashem should save and help everybody. And tomorrow again, we'll start from the mission and Daf Samach Daled. Again, tomorrow is also Rosh Chodesh. Chodesh Tov, Lekula.
Chodesh Tov, thank you.